When it comes to collected editions, absolutes are one of the more pricey formats, but which one is the best value for money? WOOFWOOF! Hey guys, it's me Marcus, aka the Mad Dog, and we're back with another video. So in the past I've done the best and worst value for money DC omnibuses and the best and worst value Marvel omnibuses, but as we know in the collected editions community, absolutes are kind of the pinnacle of the format. However, with my trusted calculator that I originally stole from my high school, I've gone through every single absolute edition that DC's released so far and taken the cover price and divided it by the page count to give us the price per page value. In the past I've done some rules, so I'm going to bring them into this one as well, the first one being that there is no emotion involved in this. A story that you absolutely hate and feel doesn't deserve an absolute edition could still end up in the best value for money, and it doesn't mean that it's a better story than something that you really enjoy. So please, for your own embarrassment, don't leave a salty comment down below if a book that you hate is in this list. Secondly, the majority of my stats have come from my comic shop and also a combination of Amazon. I think that some of them still might be incorrect, but I've tried as much as possible to get the most accurate values. However, if a page count or a cover price is slightly off, just allow it. I'm doing this list in my spare time. And thirdly, it has to be a book that says absolute edition. So I know that Image does some kind of slipcased hardcovers, but that's not going to be included in this video. And also I've tried to keep it as accurate to the most recent printing as possible. There is one exception that is actually towards the end of this video, so make sure you watch to the end for that. But because of that technicality, I'm going to include 26 books on this list, and starting it off, we've got Absolute Batman and Robin, Batman Reborn. And with a cover price of $99.99 and a page count of 488, that meant that this has a price per page value of 20.49 cents. So for anybody who doesn't know, that means that every page in this book is basically worth that value. If you got rid of a page somehow, that's what you'd be paying for it. Although with absolute editions, I'd really recommend not doing that. But number 25, with a price per page value of 20.38 cents, we've got Absolute Preacher Volume 3. This is a very whammy boy, and yes, they're some of the most beautiful looking absolutes that I've ever seen, and I think I also included these quite highly in my top 10 absolute editions. But this had a steep cover price of $150 and a page count of 736. And following it up in number 24 is another book that's in this series, and also over my shoulder here because it's Absolute Preacher Volume 1. This only had 2 more pages than the previous entry at 738, but it had the same cover price of $150. This meant that its price per page value was 20.33 cents. Number 23, with a price per page value of 20.16 cents, it's a book that is my biggest absolute whale. I had this book a few years ago, but then I had to sell it when times get tough, but it's Absolute Justice by Jim Kruger and Alex Ross. This had a page count of 496 and a cover price of $99.99, which is something that I would happily pay for it right now. We've then got a two-way tie for number 21 because both of these books have a price per page value of 20.03 cents. And that's because they've got the same cover price of $125 and the same page count of 624. And the first one is Absolute Wildcats, and if you're wondering what this series is, it was originally an Image title that then the rights got picked up by DC. We'll discuss this a lot more in my Jim Lee top 5 notable works, so I'd recommend checking out that video. And the book that tied with it is one that I think will annoy a lot of people, but it's Absolute Dark Knight 3: The Master Race. Although I'm interested to know, if you took out all the variant covers that were included in that book, what would the price per page value be then? That might be something that I have to do an amendment for if I ever do a follow-up video on this. Coming in at number 18, we've got a 3-way tie because all of these books have a price per page value of 19.53 cents. Yes, we've finally broken into the 20-cent mark, and I know that you're probably wondering, will we break into the 15-cent mark by the time we get to number 1? But if I told you that now, you might end up clicking off the video, and I haven't asked that you like and subscribe and all that lot, so I'm not really going to do that right now. But first up, we've got 2 books that have got a cover price of $99.99 and a page count of 512. The first is the 5th volume in a long series that is going to feature throughout this entire video, but it's Absolute Sandman Volume 5. And tying with it with the same stats is a book that I feel deserves a higher place than its sequel volume that also got an absolute that also featured in this list, because it's Absolute Dark Knight. And if you still haven't picked up this book, even though it originally got printed in like 2006, you can get it from the channel sponsor Organic Price Books. They've got great packaging, fast shipping and amazing customer services, and I can't lie, I feel like you deserve a treat. I feel like you've been watching this video for quite a bit of time already, so why not use the code WOOFWOOF for $2 off at the checkout? And you can use that code as many times as you like, so make sure you go and treat yourself. But the last book that's timed for 18th is kind of interesting because it's somewhat obsolete now, but it's got a page count of 384, a reduced cover price of $75, and of course it's going to be Absolute Planetary Volume 2. And then we've got a two-way tie for 16th place, and both of these books just happen to be behind me. The first is Absolute Justice League World's Greatest Heroes, which has a cover price of $75, a page count of 396, which means that it's got a price per page value of 18.94 cents. And with that exact same value is Absolute DC The New Frontier 15th anniversary. Now I have included the 15th anniversary as a separate entry, and yeah, that might prove to be controversial, but let's be honest, none of our lives are going to change as a result of this list. But it did have an additional issue in it, so I felt like it deserved its own place on the list, and it's featured here with its cover price of $99.99 and its page count of 528. We've then got a two-way tie for 14th place, with both of these books having a cover price of $75 and a page count of exactly 400, which gives us a price per page value of 18.75 cents. First up is one that I know a lot of people want now, especially for the price it was going for originally, but it's Absolute Batman The Long Halloween. And even though I didn't speak about it in the Absolute edition and I was talking about the omnibus, I did still review this as the first book that I ever talked about on this channel. And time with it is Absolute Authority Volume 1. Number 13, and these next two entries are quite interesting because I've got Absolute Fourth World Volume 1. This had a steep cover price of $150, but a page count of 816, which meant they had a price per page value of 18.38 cents. But the book that beat it in 12th place is Absolute Fourth World Volume 2. Yeah, I know this is a pre-order and you can never trust DC in case it cancels stuff, but this is still something that's made it into the list. And it only slightly beat its predecessor because it's got the same cover price of $150, but a page count of 824. This meant that it's got a price per page value of 18.2 cents. Number 11, one of the first Absolute editions to be printed, and it's got a very slim cover price of $75 considering the fact that it's pretty much got two books in it. And it had a page count of 416, which meant that it had a price per page value of 18.03 cents. And that's going to be none other than the Absolute League of Extraordinary Gentlemen Volume 1. This was one of my favourite Absolute editions, and I also found it very cheap because of the fact that somebody just mislisted it. And I think I was about 18 at the time, so I didn't have a lot of money, so this is probably the biggest deal that I've ever had in my comic collecting journey. But again, I'm going to think about the rules, there's no emotion involved in this. Number 10, and I promise I haven't put this one here on purpose because it's got a price per page value of 17.36 cents. And that's because it's got a page count of 576 and a cover price of $99.99. And yeah, I couldn't have timed this better because it's absolute top 10. We've then got a two-way tie for 8th place, and none of them have got the same cover price or page count, but they've got the same price per page value of 16.74 cents. And first up is Absolute Planetary, the complete edition. But yeah, that's also why Volume 2 is a little bit obsolete when I mentioned it earlier. But this has got a steep cover price of $150, but it's got a whammy page count of 896. And time with it is a book that had exactly half of those stats because it's got a cover price of $75 and a page count of 448. But yes, it managed to beat its earlier volume because it's Absolute League of Extraordinary Gentlemen Volume 2. And it's just interesting seeing books that didn't get a reprint later on and how slim their cover price was originally. And if I went back to those times, I imagine people would probably be saying that that's a very expensive book. Just kind of interesting how times change. But in 7th place, we've got the start of an absolute domination by one series because it's Absolute Sandman Volume 4. This had a very nice cover price of $99.99 and a page count of 608. This meant that the price per page value came out at 16.45 cents. And coming in at number 6, starting off this series, is Absolute Sandman Volume 1. Again, a cover price of $99.99, but this time a page count of 4 more with 612. This meant that the price per page value was 16.34 cents. And we've then got a two-way tie for number 4, and I'm going to give you a chance to guess what two books you think this might be, because it's both Absolute Sandman Volume 3 and Absolute Sandman Volume 2. They've both got a price per page value of 16.23 cents, and again, it's because they've got a cover price of $99.99 and a page count of 616. But getting the bronze medal, and technically the silver medal if we're going to get into the semantics of it, but we've got Absolute DC The New Frontier. Yes, the original printing of this book worked out better value for money than this later volume that had more material. Although for me, like I said, emotions aren't going to get involved, but I remember selling my original edition just so that I could get the special issue, and that's probably the reason why DC printed it that way. But the original edition had a price per page value of 16.16 cents, and this is because it's got a cover price of $75 and a page count of 464. But coming in at number 2 and getting the silver place medal, although it's only a technicality, and I guess this could be considered like the people's champ of the best value for money absolute editions, because it's got a price per page value of 15.12 cents, a cover price of $75 and a page count of 496. And the runner-up for today unfortunately has to be The Absolute Authority Volume 2. A book that didn't seem to have a lot of hype about it, has been the sleeper hit of this list. And like I said, when you hear the actual number 1, you might end up thinking that the second place is the one that probably should have won. But even though it slightly breaks the rules that I listed, even though one of the rules is to not take this too seriously and just have a bit of fun with it, is one of the first absolute editions that ever came out, and it had a very slim cover price of $49.99, a page count of 372, which meant that it had a price per page value that no book even came close to because it was 13.44 cents. And even though it got re-released about a decade later with double the cover price, it's none other than Absolute Batman Hush. Yes, I didn't know whether or not to include this one on the list, but I thought I would just to make it a bit more interesting. But the reason why I included this one on here is because this is a book that made it to the top of the best value for money list, but it also makes it into the worst value for money list. Yes, by the time they reprinted this, they didn't add anything to the page count, which meant that the price per page value of that reprint drastically steeper. But if you do want to see the worst value for money DC Absolute editions, let's smash a like target of 100 likes. But that's the video for today. If you could do me a massive favour, share this where you can, and feel free to check out the playlist of the other videos. But until next time, just make sure that you stay safe, stay reading the best books that you can find, and stay mad all you dogs. Woof woof! See you at the next video.